What's up, everybody? It is Matt from Electric All Wheel, and today we have the wired cruiser, and it has the dual battery input, 15 amp hours on the rear rack, 20 amp hours in the main body, and we are going to add another 20 amp hour 60 volt battery with the Electric All Wheel Datex DX2 60 amp with a 90 amp max current load, which will allow us to get a third battery in line with the wired cruiser. We're going to do it just because we can. I wanted to state that the DX260 amp may be just a little overkill with the 45 amp max current limit on the controller that we've shown you in a previous video. Please check that out. It'll give you an inside look at what's going on inside your battery compartment and inside the frame of your bike in terms of connections. We have also picked up XT90 connectors with 10 AWG wiring that we will use to make that connection external and then run it to the rear rack, where we will add a bike case Big Daddy storage bag that will hold our 60 volt 20 amp hour third cube battery. We'll want to make sure and have that, but the bike case bag allows for extra storage with these additional pannier bags that come out the side, which is really awesome. We will leave links for everything that we use in the video description below, and we appreciate you using those links to help support the Electric All Wheel channel, allowing us to move forward with more videos just like this. If you haven't already, give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. It is our primary, and if you're in the area, check out E-Bikes of Tampa Bay, Florida. Get in that Facebook group, make an event, and go for a ride with your friends. Stick around to the end of the video where we will give you some range calculations utilizing the Mica toll constant. Let's get to it. We are on the left-hand side of the cruiser, and we're going to get into this cable set here. We don't really need to undo anything except for this power cable, which leads to the rear rack. So let's go ahead and get these zip ties cut loose. And then from here, I am going to go ahead and cut this heat shrink cabling off, or the heat shrink wrap, that is. Be careful not to cut into the sheathing of the wire beneath it. Whatever that means to you, just make sure you take the necessary precautions. There we go. From here, I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect these XT90S plugs. From here, I'm going to take my Electric All Wheel XT90 10 AWG extension cables and plug them in just as you see, whatever works. I'm going to go ahead and bring the heat shrink status back to this. So I'm going to cut to fit a length that will work. So that looks about it right there. And I'm going to make it easier on myself and then just feed these pieces onto the cable. There we go. Now I'm just going to push this back over the connection and then get it about midway. So now I'm going to take my heat gun and then go ahead and shrink this up. Be mindful of all of the other cabling and wiring so that doesn't get ruined in the process. And then this wrapping will melt, so be careful with that. You just want enough heat to get the wrap to shrink down. You don't want to overdo it. it looks like what I'm going to do is take this and take the power cable line that comes down from the rear rack and then just run it all the way up into the bag. That will make all of my extensions. So I'll have 2 sets of extensions. I'll have this extra piece that will get me from here all the way up to the rear rack as well, with the battery in the bag, and then will be internal to the bike. So let me go ahead and undo all of this. So I errantly heat shrinked an extension on here. We're not going to need it. We're just going to take this length out and then run that to the bag. The balancer will be in here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. We'll use this piece to get the rest of the cabling up there. We have gotten free our cabling that goes to the rear rack battery mount. And we have heat shrink the extension here and then run another one, and we are going to bring that all the way around in the same way that they mounted the original cable into the controller housing. Okay, and then we're going to take one more extension so that it has enough length. Now what we'll do is affix all of the cabling like it was before with the new cable running up. Okay, I'm going to get my zip ties cleaned up. Now there was a zip tie here, so we'll probably use one more and get this tied together. Then there was this one. What you really have to pay attention to is right in here. This is very tight. There's not much room, so make sure that your cables don't rub on the wheel or the tire. So then we follow this line up, and we came up where there's a mount here, and now we're here where they bundled together with the brakes. And then we brought it and attached it to the rack, then came up further, and then here, this is the original cable that goes to the rear rack, which followed this line down for that original connection. So I'm going to take my Bike Case Big Daddy 2 rear mounting rack bag and then go ahead and get it onto the rack. With the battery out, this is an easier install, so keep that in mind. I am going to put it as close to the seat as possible. And then I'm just tightening up all the straps. Perfect. All right, from here I'm going to take my DX2 60 amp, and this is dual input, dual output. So if you have a dual motor situation, you can actually use this. So here is our original factory end. This is the cable in that we ran up, and you just plug in where it works. There's that. Going to put my 60 volt 20 amp hour battery, and you might want to pack this with some materials to keep it from bouncing around. You don't want it hitting on the bottom or causing any indentation. Now, one thing I must tell you is that this uses 12 AWG, and the current limit will match with the 12 AWG wiring, but Wired chose to go with 10 AWG, and that matches the 60 amp, 90 amp max current DX2 with 12 AWG and the XT90 to 10 AWG extension cables. So you have 10 AWG wiring on the DX2 60 amp and then 10 AWG wiring on the original factory cabling. So we are keeping consistent with that, but we will drop down to match the 12 AWG to XT60 here on the battery. And these adapters come with the cable set. And then we'll just go ahead and plug that into an input right here in on the battery set. And there we go. So now I'm going to just go ahead and tuck my balancer inside the bag. And then let's see if we've got power. As you know, there is no factory battery inside the frame. And then we took this loose, and there is no factory battery in the rear rack either. So here we go. Woo! And it still lights up. It sounds just like it always does, like that motor is ready to go tear something up. We're likely going to we'll run these cables up through this handle here so it gets a little bit more of a hold in the bag. Let me disconnect the battery, get behind this handle. We'll come up in here. Go ahead and reconnect the battery. So let's go ahead and test the main body battery. That's in. And then what we will do is disconnect the second battery that we added. That's here. So we still have our inline connection. The third battery is removed. Here we go. And there we are. So much torque on this thing. Now we'll go ahead and remove this battery. We do not have our third battery connected up. It's just the connections for what was factory. Go ahead and put this one in. It is clicked. Give it some power. It's on. Has one. I'm going to hold it because I know it's going to torque and there's a lot of weight in the back. And there it is. Woo! Perfect. So we know all that works. I'm going to go ahead and plug back in my third battery. Get all this stuff wrapped up. And there she is. Triple battery wired cruiser. So one of the reasons I really like this Big Daddy bag is because on the side here, it has these pannier bags where you think, oh, you just lost all your storage. That is not true. I can actually store in here with these built-in side bags, and there's one on each side of the Big Daddy bag. And then if you're not using it, the internals of the bag, you can have it as a cooler. So that's pretty awesome as well. Well, there you have it. We have successfully added a third battery to the wired cruiser, added another 20 amp hours at 60 volts to this beefy bike, and it does add some weight, but rest assured this bike was heavy already, plus 100 pounds, and then we just added probably another 15 to 20 pounds given the bag and the Cube battery itself on the rear rack. We pushed it forward to keep the center of gravity as close as possible to the middle of the bike. And then we've also gone ahead and utilized 3 of the XT90 10 AWG extension cables. We have 1 extra, but we did need 3. And then we kept and avoided bringing wiring up through the middle of the frame. We tracked it in the same alignment that they utilized for the rear rack battery. Now, I know a lot of you stuck around for some range calculations, but I first want to talk about these Allscape tires. You'll definitely want to check these out. HEB Allscapes on the wired cruiser. It is right at the line of top speed class for the tires, but they look great and they feel good on the ride too. We did take this thing and zoom around just to see what it was like. And with the Cane Creek Hellbender already pre-installed on the cruiser, there is no wobble with the additional weight. So that is a positive. Showing 41.5. 40.5, 40.7, throttle only. Let me get this range calculation computed for you utilizing the Mica Toll constant. So the original frame battery is 20 amp hours, and then the rear rack battery of factory is 15 amp hours, and then we added another 20 for a total of 55 amp hours. We're going to multiply that by 60 volts, and you get 3,300 watt hours, and we're going to divide that by 25. Now 25 is the Mica Toll constant, which says it's 25 watt hours per mile ridden at 20 miles an hour, throttle only, and you get 132 miles. Oh my goodness. You may need a cushier seat, but the full suspension is going to help you out with this ride. And the additional battery is pretty painless and easy install. We had to reroute after looking at it, and we are very glad we did. You only need to heat shrink wrap one side, and the original cable routing from the rear rack battery can just be brought back to the Big Daddy bag on the rear rack of the wired cruiser. We will leave links for all these items in the description below. We appreciate you utilizing those links to help us promote the Electric All Wheel channel and keep bringing you videos just like this. If you haven't already, give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. It is our primary, and if you're in the area, check out E-Bikes of Tampa Bay, Florida. Get in that Facebook group, make an event, go for a ride with your friends. I'm going to take this thing out for a spin. We'll talk to you next time.